The words in this question are not that hard, but the passage then might have some difficulty in trying to understand it. So let's see what it says. To demonstrate that the integrity of underground metal pipes can be assessed without unearthing the pipes, engineer Aroba Salim and colleagues the tendency of some metals' internal magnetic fields to alter under stress. Now this is important, right? When they have that colon, they're usually repeating themselves. The team showed that such alterations can be measured from a distance and can reveal concentrations of stress in the pipes. Now the problem is, normally we have that colon, we're literally repeating the blank in some way, right? So we would just kind of be defining the word, but I don't get that sense here. Maybe a word like show. So maybe Aroba and Salim, Aroba Salim and colleagues showed the tendency of some metals' internal magnetic fields to alter under stress. Well, I don't know. There's not really a word that fits that. We can go down now and see if maybe something fits a little bit better or whatever is going on here. Hypothesize, right? We need to know that word for lots of reasons on the SAT, mostly because so many passages involve science. We need to be able to recognize a hypothesis. That's a guess, right? That's what I think is going to happen. So they hypothesized or guessed the tendency of some metals to alter under stress. Well, no, it doesn't sound like they're guessing it, right? We would need some more evidence of that. Is there anywhere else that says that like they then verified this hypothesis or anything like that? No, they're doing the alterations, but it seems like they knew this would work. So it's not really a guess. They're kind of using it. They're using whatever property they were trying to, I guess, take advantage of here. So that doesn't make any sense. Now, discounted, we think of a discount as in like we go shopping, we get a coupon and some amount is off. But in this sense, discounted means kind of like ignored almost, like you discount someone's opinion. You kind of like say, it's not a worthy opinion. Don't listen to that person. They don't know what they're talking about, right? So here, if they said they were discounting the tendency of some metals, it'd almost be like they were ignoring it and then maybe were surprised when the magnetic fields changed, but that doesn't seem to be the case either. They seem to know what they're doing. It's kind of the same reason that A isn't right. It's not a guess. They seem to have a plan here. So that gets rid of two choices. Now redefined, would that even make sense here? They redefined the tendency of some metals' internal magnetic fields to alter under stress. It's like a physical property of something. Like how are they redefining it? It is what it is. There's no way to redefine it. It doesn't make any sense. So think of like the word define means to kind of give a definition of something, like, to give a definition of a word like I'm doing for all these explanations. But to redefine it is to give it a new definition. How are we doing that with a metal? So this one just doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, the only reason I think people are going to get this wrong is exploited is a word that has a very strong negative connotation in most cases, right? You exploit a boss that exploits their employees. They take advantage of them. They almost like treat them very, very poorly and they don't let them have time off or lunch breaks or whatever. They're being exploited. And there's lots of situations, especially I think about labor where things are exploited. You're exploiting people. You're treating them poorly. You're kind of maybe almost enslaving them. So this word has a lot of negative connotation associated with it. But here it's a much more neutral version because we're not talking about people basically, right? We're talking about a physical thing that has no emotions, right? So what we're talking about is that they are exploiting or just using, or I kind of said this before, taking advantage of. Right? They are taking advantage of the tendency of some metals' internal magnetic fields to alter under stress, meaning then that what they're doing is they're showing that such alterations can be measured from a distance. So they're like, okay, we know that metals are going to change in this specific way. So knowing that, let's look at the metals through some sort of instrument and see them change, use this property. We're going to exploit this property to learn something about, I guess, these underground metal pipes without having to dig them up. That's what they're saying. So I think there is a lesson to be learned from this. I do think that the SAT very intentionally chooses words that you have associated with a very specific context. And maybe in that context, they also have a very strong connotation, positive or negative. But words in English can have lots of context that we use them. And so this is why it's better to read because, the more you read, the more familiar you become with words and the more variety you see those same words used in. But you got to just know the SAT sometimes is doing this. I don't want you to second guess every single word that you come across and being like, well, maybe this is some meaning of the word that I never thought of. Like, yeah, it's possible, but it's also unlikely. Most of the time, the meaning that you know, that you've studied, that you've learned is the meaning that is going to apply in that situation. But I do think this is a case where the other three choices are clearly wrong. They don't make any sense. And the only reason you'd pick them is if you're so afraid of D that you're just like, oh, well, it must be something else, right? So, try to think about what the word exploit actually means. Maybe think of it in that context of like people being abused at their job, but then be like, well, what if we, instead of exploiting a person, exploited a metal? Suddenly we can use that same definition, right? You're taking advantage of that person. Now we're taking advantage of the property of a metal, and it still has the same definition, but suddenly we don't have that connotation problem because it's an inanimate object. And so you can still get there, but you've got to be able to trust yourself and trust the meanings of words, and recognize too when you have wrong answers that just don't make any sense. So just get rid of A, B, and C pretty confidently, and I think you'll find your way to choice D, even if you're a little bit nervous about picking it.